Okay, before we begin, I just want to let you know I am going to use several different colors while I am doing our notes today. You don't have to use Sharpies. You don't have to use the same colors. You don't even have to use all the colors. Just know that I'm going to use the colors to make it easier to see what I'm doing. There are different ways to show what I'm doing without using colors, and that could be shading in different things, lightly or darker, just depending. Now we're going to be doing dividing fractions using pictures, and I know some of you already know how to divide fractions, and there's a simple trick that you use where you flip and use the reciprocal. I can't remember what it's called because I don't even use it anymore. And I just want to tell you that I'm not teaching that method anymore. And the reason behind that is because, one, it doesn't always work for everything as you get further into fractions and math. But two, students don't really understand why they do it. And I've told you that before. There are tricks that you learn, but you don't know why, and you don't understand the mathematics behind it. And that makes me a little bit fussy. So I want to make sure that I'm teaching a way where you understand what's really going on. So you're going to be, some of you will be happy because you'll understand it, and some of you will be saying, but it's so much easier to do it the other way. Yes, I get it. But we've got to learn all the ways that we possibly can. So I'm going to start by showing you how to divide fractions using pictures, but we're going to start with a whole number divided by a fraction. So I'm just going to do a bunch of different examples and hope that you understand. All right, example 1. Here's our problem. We have 4 divided by 2/3. So I'm going to show you what each part means. The 4 means it represents how many wholes are being divided. So in this case, we will have 4 whole pieces. The top of the fraction here that we're dividing by represents how many of each piece in each group. And that will make more sense once I show you the picture. So the 2 represents how many of each piece in each group. And the bottom part will always tell us or represents how many pieces we cut, and I put cut in here because it's actually dividing, right, our whole into. Okay, so it's asking us, here's what it's asking us. 4 divided by 2/3 means, I'm going to interpret it for you. How many groups of 2 1/3 pieces will 4 wholes give? 4 divided by 2/3 mean how many groups of 2 1/3 pieces will four holes give? All right, so now that we have what each piece means and what the problem is actually asking us to do, I'm going to show you a visual representation. So I'm going to start by drawing four bars that are all the same size. Okay, and they don't have to be exactly perfect. Now, I know in the past you've probably drawn circles to represent fractions. I don't like to use circles because it's so much easier to draw bars that are the same size. Circles are imperfect when we draw them, and it's hard to get them to be the same size to compare. We'll also use a number line, which I'll show you as well. Okay, so let me see. Can you see my four holes? Here's one, here's two, here's three, here's four. One hole here, one hole here, one. Four total. And I don't even have to draw them on top of each other. I can draw them next to each other. I'm also going to draw using a number line at the same time. So I'm going to make a horizontal number line, and I'm going to start at 0, and then I'm going to have 2, 4, and in between the 0 and the 2, I'm going to put a 1, and in between the 2 and the 4, I'm going to put a 3. So I have a hole here, a hole here, a hole here, and a hole here. Four holes. Now what it's telling me to do, it's telling me to divide these into pieces of 3. So if I go back up here, it says represents how many pieces we cut our hole into, right here. So I'm going to slice each of these into pieces of 3. So for my bars, since they're all stacked on top of each other, I'm just going to draw one long line. So I have one hole cut into 3 pieces, 2 holes cut into 3 pieces, 3 holes cut into 3 pieces, 4 holes cut into 3 pieces. I'm going to do the same thing to my number line. So I'm going to put a 1/3, a 2/3, and then we know 1 is going to be 3/3, right? And then I'm going to do the same thing between 1 and 2. There's another 1 and 1/3, 1 and 2/3. Then I have 2, 2 and 2/3, 2 and 1/3, 2 and 2/3, 3. And then between 3 and 4, I'm going to do 3 and 1/3 and 3 and 2/3. And I'm going to make my, no, I'm going to leave it like that. Okay, so now my 4 holes here are divided into 2/3, and my 4 holes here are divided into 2/3. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start grouping using my colors. You don't have to use colors. You can shade or draw or whatever you want. But I'm going to show you how this works. Again, how many groups of 2 1/3 pieces? So these are my 1/3 pieces. Each of these is 1/3, right? This is 1/3, this is 1/3, this is 1/3, 1/3. Okay, this is 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. Each of these little gaps are each 1/3. It's asking me to make groups of 2. So I'm just going to take this. There's a group of 2. Here's a group of 2. I now have 2 1/3 pieces in my group. That's what it's asking me. Now I'm going to go and do 2 more. Two pieces, different color represents a different group. Two more. Two more. Two more. And then I'm going to go back to pink again. I'm going to do these 2. Okay. And I don't have anything left over. It evenly goes in. That's not always going to happen, but that's okay. We're going to start with this problem. So all of my groups, all of my 2/3 are colored in, and now I want to know how many groups I have. So I just count the number of groups that I made. So here's 1, here's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 4 divided into 2/3 equals 6. I have 6 groups of 1/3 pieces that are grouped by 2s. Does that make sense? 2/3 in each group out of my 4 holes gives me 6 whole groups. Now I'm going to show you, I don't know if you're processing this or it's blowing your mind or if it's really, you don't see it and you're confused. We'll do another one. And I'm going to do one that has a numerator of 1. This had a numerator of 2. We made groups of 2. Example 2. We're going to take 2 holes and we're going to divide them into pieces of 3 and we're going to put 1 in each group. Okay, so this one we're going backwards a little bit. We're only doing 1 per group. So I'm going to make 2 holes, and instead of stacking my holes on top of each other, I'm going to show you a different way. I'm just going to put them right next to each other. It doesn't matter. They represent 2 holes. But I am going to do a number line. Okay, so you can see here I have 2 holes, and I have 1 hole, 2 holes on my number line. The denominator tells me again how many to cut my holes into. So it tells me 3. So here's 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 piece, 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 piece. And now it just tells me to group them by 1s. So I'm only going to have 1 in each group. 1, 2. You probably know the answer without even coloring these. 3, 4, 5, 6. Same over here. I'm going to do it every other. 1 in my group, 2 in my group. No. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. And I stop there because I'm not going over 2 groups. 2 is where I stop. And then we count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 2 divided by 1/3 is 6. So I have 2 holes. I divided them into pieces of 3. I put 1 in each group. I have 6 different groups. One more example for today, because we will be doing more of this without holes. We'll do fractions by fractions, but not yet. Let me turn my page. Okay, here's example 3. 2 divided by 4/5. This one's going to show you what happens when we have pieces left over, when it doesn't go in evenly. So I'm going to start I'm going to do the same 2 things again. I'm going to do my boxes and I'm going to do my number line. So I'm going to stack my boxes on top of each other this time. Again, it doesn't really matter. One box, 2 box. I can put them side by side. And then I'm going to do my number line. Start with 0, 1, 2. Two holes. This tells me I have to divide them into 5 pieces. So I'm going to make 4 cuts. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 cuts gives me 5 pieces. Same thing here. 4 cuts will give me 5 pieces. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're not even, which drives me a little bit crazy, but that's okay. I can live with it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Another 5 pieces. So let's just double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm good. Now it's telling me that I'm going to group them into groups of 4. So I'm going to do these 4. It doesn't matter which 4. It doesn't matter which 4 you choose, because your answer will be the same. And I'm going to do these 4. Uh-oh, I don't have enough to do another group of 4. So I'm just going to leave those for right now. We'll come back to them. Let me do the same thing on my number line. I don't have to draw both eventually, but whichever one you like best is the one you'll choose. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's my 2 left over that match this. Okay, so I have 2 whole groups. Here's 1, Here's 2. Here's 1. Here's 2. Now, this is where it becomes a little bit tricky, because normally we would think that we have 2 pieces of 1/5 left over. So I would have 2 and 2/5. But that's not true. That's not the way this works. The way this works is that I have 2 pieces left over. But how many was I grouping? How many was I putting in my group? I was putting 4 in my group. And I don't have 4, I don't have 2 more to make another group. So I have 1 piece, 2 pieces left over out of the 4 that I was making in my group. I'm going to write it down in words. I have 2 pieces out of the 4 in my group. I can't make another group without 2 more pieces. So my leftover is 2/4. 2 out of the 4 that I need in my group. And then if I simplify 2 and 1/4, it's 2 and 1/2, because these can both be divided by 2 to simplify. So my final answer is 2 and 1/2. 2 divided by 4/5 is 2 and 1/2. I only have half of the group that I need. So, rewatch this if you need to. This is where we're going. I know it's kind of brand new. I'm going to have you do this problem, and you must draw it out. And it's going to be a bigger one, but that's okay. We'll talk about it tomorrow when you come into class. 7 divided by 2/3. So you're going to have 7 holes. You're making groups of 3, and you're putting 2 into every one of those groups. Will you have pieces left over? I don't know. What do you do with those pieces? Figure it out. We'll talk about it tomorrow.